Today, Jagex released the rewards blog for the new player-designed island, Wyrmscraig. Let's take a break from complaining about Chambers of Xeric drop tables and talk about some of the interesting rewards here, some of the ones I like and the ones I dislike. There are 4 new things coming from this new island, Wyrmscraig. So first is a new Slayer Master, Mortimer. Well, unfortunately, they said they're not going to discuss that in this particular blog because they're still tuning numbers and figuring that stuff out. Unfortunately, that was the most important thing I wanted to read about, but it is what it is. Let's talk about the rest. There's going to be a new boss fight that comes after a quest that's repeatable. Think like Vorkath. And then there's going to be a new skilling method for Hunter and crafting. So we can go through all those one by one. Interestingly, the very first poll question is, should we put a new amulet in to teleport here? I don't know if this needs to be a poll question. Just put it in the game. I don't think it's that big a deal. These are the kind of questions where I think like polls get bloated for no reason. Should we add a teleport to this island? Like, just put it in the game, man. Also, something very interesting I was reading on Reddit, literally the top comment was like, another teleport amulet? Can we get a jewelry box update in the future? Which is very, very valid, I think. There's been a bunch of stuff. There's been like what? Like the sailing amulet. Oh, people even listed around here. The cowbell amulet, sailor's amulet, giant soul. Look at all these things just all recently. There's a ton of new amulets with teleports. My only concern is that the POH is already so OP. The jewelry box is so OP, but I don't know a better way or better place to add all of these teleports. Is there like a big giga chain that you carry, a chain that you can slap all these necklaces on that have the teleports on them? Kind of like the key ring, like an amulet ring? I don't know. I did like how they have in different rooms of the POH, you can put up like the desert amulet and things like, not the desert amulet, whichever one you use to go to Fossil Island to do your birdhouse runs, to do the Chambers of Xeric one is also hanging in there. I think it would be really cool to be able at some point put all those teleports somewhere in the house, but at the same time, I totally understand the argument of why this POH is too OP. The construction cape is way too broken. You can just teleport in the game, anywhere in the game now, so I can see both sides. All right, let's jump into the boss fight section. I'm glad that they're not like describing all of the mechanics in here and in extreme detail. People should find that out on day one. Go try out the boss and see what happens. I do like that they went through and said that this boss, as a reminder, is aimed at people who have a fire cape. So to me, this is something around like Vorkath level PVM skill. So glad they're putting this out there, this disclaimer out there, so that end game folks aren't like, oh my god, this boss is too easy. So I look forward to it. I'm excited. I trust Jagex's ability to make cool mechanics in the game. In terms of concept art, I love this. This looks so cool. I'm so glad that it's going to be tied back to kind of like the Hallowed Sepulchre, which I think is a piece of art that is absolutely gorgeous in the game. And there's nothing like it, these Saradomin angels and the Justiciar folks you see down there. So excited for that to come back. In terms of the weapon itself, it is a 2-handed sword that requires 75 attack, similar to God Swords, high slash, melee strength. But the coolest thing about it is that you can damage up to 2 additional enemies in the 3 tiles in front of you and the 2 tiles adjacent. Crazy. Now, important that this is different from the Scythe of Vitor, which is a mega rare. It's got a wider range of effect, but only unique targets can take those additional hits. It won't hit the same target multiple times like the Scythe does. Now this is kind of sweet. We already know Mage has multi-targeting through barrages and a bunch of spells. Venator Bow for range came out in the last couple of years, arrows bouncing from one to another, and it was just about time for a melee version of this that isn't a mega rare, that isn't the Scythe. So excited to see this kind of coming into the game. This is a unique, different mechanic, and something that doesn't seem too OP at first, but we'll see what happens. The one thing I'm so scared about is some kind of person. There's going to be some people who go into the POH, stack like 500 accounts in the combat ring and start somehow getting like 5 billion attack or strength XP per hour, and Jagex is going to crack down on that. I really hope they figure out that situation before they release this, because inevitably somebody's going to be doing that. In terms of where this item is going to fit into the game, Jagex has already done that thinking for us. Thank you. Basically, it'll be used for Slayer, like multi-target combat situations. I'm sure somebody out there will do some type of calculations based on this about whether it's still faster to use Barrage or Venator Bow, but this is a good alternative. I also like the idea that there's niches, other niches for this. For example, like Nilo's a TOB or the Baboon Party. That's just already, just hearing that scares me again. But it's kind of cool. It's not going to be a super OP weapon that is used everywhere across the game, take the place of a mega rare, but it is sliding into a really cool, interesting spot where it'll still have some uses in the game. That is exactly what I expect in a drop that comes from a mid-tier, mid-level boss. There's a chunk of text here saying that the earlier concept for the sword had multiple combat modes, but I am still glad with what they ended up settling on here. One of the more out there things I would have liked to see proposed is something like this sword gets extra bonuses or something cool happens when you tie it in and you're wearing Justy. If you're wearing full Justy, something happens, or maybe you only need to wear 1 or 2 pieces. Maybe as a baseline, you can only attack the tile in front of you. But when you put Justy on, you put 1 piece on, you can attack 2 more tiles. When you wear the full set, you get to attack all 5 tiles around you. Some like cool interactions like that, just putting together lore-wise this Saradomin Angel from here and like the ones from the Hallowed Sepulchre and Justy coming from I don't know. It's one of those things where you can argue, well, that's an armor that comes from a raid, like that shouldn't be tied to a weapon that's coming from a mid-level boss. But I don't know. It'd just be cool to see some sort of thematic connection going on over there. My only disappointment is that the mini imbued heart was taken off this table. They mentioned it in the previous version of this blog. That was the saddest part, but they're saying that the new Slayer Master Mortimer is going to make getting the imbued heart easier in terms of time to get, but numbers are always super hard to balance. It is such a I can complain about this for days, but I would have loved to see that on this table. Why is this one a poll question, man? The Basalt Amulet upgrade? Why do you need to ask us if you need to make a teleport to the boss? You've already learned from your time. The Nightmare, that was Nightmare. The 2-minute run that it took to get there, they realized, yeah, that tablet should be really, really easy to get so that people don't have to run that long to get there. It's like, this once again falls into the idea of poll bloat. This is not a necessary question. This is something that's just like, oh, by the way, the boss is going to drop this so you can teleport there. I don't know why they called this out specifically about dropping Granite Dust. I guess it's cool that there's another source, but it'll still primarily be from Grotesque Guardians. Sure. I have no feelings about this. This is sure. Whatever. The other part is there's a boss jar, of course, and a pet. Yeah, that's expected for this boss. So all that sounds cool. I'm kind of excited for this boss coming out. The item sounds cool. The only thing that I'm kind of scared of here is I know Jagex has been in the habit of making drop rates really weird. There's a non-zero chance that they're gonna be like, we're gonna make this a 1 in 2,000 drop. Where I'm just like, for a mid-level boss, let's not do that. How about I would hope like a drop rate of like 1 in 300 maybe. Maybe like between 1 in 200 and 1 in 300, maybe 1 in 400. I would say like after 500 it gets a little like too much, depending on what the kills per hour are and things like that. Of course, you'd want to balance it, but that would just be my initial thought for a mid-level boss. Because I know Vorkath drop rates are so crazy. I think that is not good design. Those are way like 1 in 1,000, 1 in a couple thousand. I really hope that this boss doesn't do the same thing. I mean, seriously, just look at Vorkath's drop table here. You have the Dragonbone necklace, which is 1 in 1k. This is the only place where it comes from. The Draconic Visage, you can argue, comes from other dragons. Maybe it's okay to keep this low, but like Skeletal Visage is the only place. Vorkath's the only place where you can get that. And there's a reason it still costs almost 15 mil. It's not even a useful item. It's whatever. All right, let's talk about Sunstone Golem crafting. I kind of outlined the gameplay loop on the previous blog, but the general way I would describe it is a crafting version of Veil Totems. That is an Auburn Veil. Kind of cool. I like that because the meta for crafting is simply, for irons at least, it's just glass blowing AFK. If you're a main, you could just like buy a lot of gems and also do your crafting or sewing. I don't even know what it's called. Whatever it is with the fur, with the leathers and things like the dragon leathers and things like that, which irons don't have as much access to. They can get some gems over time, but I like that they're throwing something new into the mix here. That's kind of cool. What I don't like is that they're saying you can expect XP rates comparable to glass blowing if they're assuming that you're gathering furs from goats on the island. This is more like an active gameplay thing. Just no matter what, baseline I think should still be better than glass blowing. Jagex's thought process here is that because glass blowing, although it's AFK and things like that and super, mentally easy, it's limited by seaweed production, which is time gated, meaning that you still have to collect all the items at some point to get there. I'm not the biggest fan of this argument. I think that the XP rates in general should just be higher because it's active. You want to incentivize people to do this anyways, just not make it dead on arrival, right? The interesting part is for folks who have already done their hunter's rumors and gathered their furs, or main accounts who can just buy higher tier furs from the Grand Exchange, they will be able to get higher tier crafting XP rates. I think that's kind of cool. It does tie in other aspects of the game, and I know there are a lot of furs coming that came out with the Hunter's Guild and Varlamore and stuff that have had no use so far, so glad to see that getting really tied in. Now this is something I hate and kind of a slap in the face here. They're giving an equipable glass blowing pipe. So this activity that is supposed to take you away from the meta of doing glass blowing takes you back, gives you a reward that gets you back to glass blowing. Whatever. Not great. And also because it's equipable, the only thing that changes here, it goes from being able to do 27 pieces of molten glass at a time to 28. That is it. That is it. Nothing else. There's no other changes here, which is so disappointing coming from the melee weapon that is cool, niche, and unique. Like, I would expect this glass blowing pipe to be similar to the fletching knife. The fletching knife has something that's like, it speeds up by a tick when you are fletching logs and things like that. Why not do the exact same thing for a glass blowing pipe? You had this opportunity right here to do that, and you're just like, the only change that's going to happen here is you have one extra inventory slot. This is such an underwhelming reward. They mentioned here that some of us would have preferred to see a wieldable chisel. Yes, and that's something they've explored, but because of development issues, or the reasoning here is that, like, because chisels are used on a huge range of items in the game, they would have to deal with having to update interactions for all the items that can be used with the chisel. But I would argue they've kind of already, not have to deal with this when they implemented the fletching knife. Like, looking at the wiki for the fletching knife, this effect, whatever they like, whether even if it is equipped in the offhand slot, the wielder still needs a knife in their inventory to use on logs to initiate the cutting. Why not do the exact same thing? I don't think this is a good excuse for not putting a wieldable chisel in the game, but the idea here is I want the chisel to be the enhanced chisel, the whatever you want to call it, to be doing the same thing here, speeding actions up by one tick. Make it analogous to the fletching knife. It should be exactly the same. You can equip it, but you will still need a regular chisel in your inventory to use on the gems, and it'll get you everything moving one tick faster except for that first item. Can we also talk about the fact that maybe the cool thing about an enhanced chisel or whatever this is going to be is it will not break any gems when cutting with it. You know that you can still break topaz and jades and all those kinds of things, even when you're wearing a crafting cape. Like, first of all, that needs to be changed. Like, that in itself is weird. Like, why? Like, that should have been a summer sweep up thing today. I would love to see the crafting cape do that, but also this wieldable chisel make it so that you have 0% chance of breaking any of those rare kind of gems. My final desire here would be maybe let's just get both coming from the game. We get a glass blowing pipe and we get a chisel. Both of them do the same kind of thing. You can equip them, and they all make the second item onwards one tick faster. I'm just so disappointed in the current iteration of this reward simply being increasing your inventory size from 27 to 28. Like, that is extremely, extremely underwhelming. Another poll question about whether you should be able to add a teleport to the new amulet. Like, this is, again, quality of life stuff. We don't need this. Just put it in the game. This is an unnecessary poll bloat. Stop it. We've already done 3 different questions corresponding to just teleports, man. Can we focus on the important stuff here? All right, the last new piece of content coming is goat hunting. High intensity activity aimed to, I think, replace salamanders, around 60 to 80 hunter. The primary focus of the activity is experience rather than unique rewards. I had to go back to the original blog to kind of see the gameplay loop here, but it's kind of like, shepherding goats into a hole where you pick up their entrails or whatever. But it's pretty simple gameplay loop. And unfortunately, I think with the release of the Hunter Guild, there are already a bunch of hunter things out there to do and has tied the skill together as well. This just feels like extra to me. I honestly feel like this is just going to be an extra task that'll show up on the Hunter's Rumors thing that is kind of cool to see here, but mostly just no one's going to be doing this on its own for fun. Hunter's also already packed with so many different things that, I don't even know how necessary this is. We talk about, goat fur, goat horn spike set. The goat fur, I guess, can be useful if you are doing if you're just staying on the island, collecting those furs, and then doing the golem crafting, if you want to tie it all together. But outside of that, a lot of people are going to already have those furs coming in from all the other hunter they've did. So my concern is that this mini game or whatever, not mini game, this new hunting activity is just an extra thing to put in there that is not going to see very much use. And I hate seeing new content come in here and immediately not get interacted with. They're also touching on the fact that goat hunting is gonna may have its own pet, but I don't think it should. It is just a singular, I don't know, we already have so many pets from Hunter already coming into the game. You got the chin pet, you got the herbivore pet. It's like, it's just getting to be too kind of many here. And they've acknowledged that. They also think that, yeah, like there's a lot of hunter-specific pets. I do understand wanting to get pen hunters or people to interact with this, but like, I think there might be better ways. They're going to poll whether or not it should be an individual pet, a transmog. I don't even know what would you transmog into a goat? Like, what the heck? My recommendation here is I don't think this needs a pet. There's no reason for this pet to actually, like, this activity to require a pet coming into the game. They call out goat horns here, which I think is necessary. Who is making regular combat potions for Herblore? This is like when super combats exist, like a fraction of people are actually making combat potions when there are secondaries. If you're a lower level iron who's trying to train your Herblore anyways, you just buy secondaries that are super easy to get. You can just buy a ton of Eyes of Newt. You can farm secondaries as well, like snape grass and things like that. So it's just like this. I don't think this is going to be a very goat horn. I don't think this is worth calling out in general. They talk about like goat furs here as well. Some of the furs can be bought in shops. It won't provide the highest quality fur. It will provide a way to engage with both activities. Like, I like that it's tied together, but if there are other ways to bring better fur in, like most people are just going to bypass this and bring their own fur in. It makes more sense for you to hunt like higher level monsters, get those furs and bring them here in the same amount of time. The only reason this would be good is if you're staying on the island at once, but if as a RuneScape player, you're teleporting around everywhere. So I don't foresee people sticking around unless there's someone's making a very specific Wyrmscraig locked Iron Man, but whatever. And that's it. That's the poll blog. My biggest takeaways, this new item, the Hallowfell, awesome. Really looking forward to seeing it in the game. That cleaving mechanic across multiple mobs, awesome. Looking forward to that. Good job. The glass blowing pipe, that's a huge thumbs down for me. I think there is room for improvement here. You can make it faster in terms of one tick faster. You can also still include that chisel in the game, the ornate chisel, and have that work one tick faster as well. So I think there's definitely room for growth, room for improvement for the rewards coming from this particular activity. The last part is the goat hunting stuff. I am afraid that this may not be a very used part of it's an activity that's not going to see a lot of light given how jam-packed Hunter already is. I don't want to see a pet coming in from this again. So even if they wanted to nix this, I don't even think people would care that much personally, but in terms of just design, is kind of fun to have, but is what it is. My biggest gripe here is this last line they put here. Our feedback on Mortimer has not gone unnoticed. Once again, this is the piece I was looking the most forward to seeing, the Slayer Master and everything that they're going to do with it in terms of like gameplay design. So I'm excited to see when that comes out. I don't know if they're going to pull that. Like, I would love to see that come out and see their vision so that we can have a full understanding of the numbers behind the tweaking, the balancing that they're doing. So just it would be great when they present to us, we're going to be using numbers X, Y, and Z, and then they give us like the exact downstream impacts. They tell us imbued heart is going to be 5 times faster to get, of course not that fast, but like something like that would be really nice to see. But in general, I'm excited to see this new piece of content. Wyrmscraig Island, the person, the gnome who designed this did an awesome job. Jagex has taken it and run with it. We'll see. We'll see when this comes out. So as always, I would love to hear your thoughts on this as well. What did Jagex do well? What did they kind of propose poorly? What did they miss? Do you like my takes, or do you think that mine are absolutely crazy and so dumb? But either way, let me know. We'll wait and see what Jagex's response is to all this feedback that they are getting. We can also make ourselves heard through the polls in the game. But until then, I'll see you guys in the next one.